Hey, HR friends, welcome back. We're in the 4-6 emotional 6.5 day sequence, and we made it to day 2. Now, this sequence is going to be a little bit more difficult, and we always start the sequence out by talking about the unseen pattern of electromagnetics. When we broke the sentient space-time construct we exist in, what we were able to do was we were able to plot out and understand when this electromagnetic pattern would elevate and when it would fall. Now, it's super important to understand this because, again, we're in a sentient space-time construct. We're emotional beings. We're supposed to work through our emotions in positive ways. However, we're designed to be defensive. And this electromagnetic pattern, as it elevates, it activates our defensive design. So this pattern actually organizes chaos. It organizes chaos through our defensive reactions. Now, we always reference the number 4. If this pattern gets to a 4 and holds at a 4, goes above a 4, that's really going to get our defensive nature going, or our human nature. Now, does that mean that you don't have to worry about it when it's down here? No, it's still activating your defensive nature. It's just easier to overcome it when it's not activated so strongly. And this is important to know because if you can eliminate your reactions, that's going to eliminate your stress. You see, your reactions lead to stress, and that stress leads to a constant state of aging. So, by understanding and preparing for this pattern, the first thing you can do is you use it to your advantage to slow the stress that causes aging. Now, stress also accumulates to cause future states of disease. So, if you can eliminate all of these ups and downs and eliminate that stress, what it's going to do is it's going to eliminate your likelihood of getting disease later in life. Now, that's why you want to know about this pattern immediately. The other thing is, you thought the people around you, well, they were trying to fight you. The truth is, what they're in battle with is this pattern, and they just don't know it yet. Now, we do these forecasts because you're going to see as this pattern elevates, it doesn't just affect individuals, it affects us all. So if you watch the news and you want to know why social tensions are going up and why people are getting a little bit rambunctious, this pattern will tell you. Now, day 2 is going to be a bit difficult here, okay? So day 1, we just transitioned into a new awareness. This was an emotional polarity flip right here. So if we see a small elevation that holds for a long duration, that's either emotional or mental polarity flip. This is a single and third person, and what this is this is going to be a mental polarity flip. So you can see at the end of the last 24 hours, this went away. We have maybe a few hours here before we're going to have a mental polarity flip. Now, these larger flips, when they last this long duration like this, that's easy to agitate us and fatigue us. So even though this gets to 411 and first person, no, not so much. I promise you, these two things together, day 2, it's going to be difficult. Also, it usually takes about 2 days before we get used to an emotional set change out, meaning getting to a metaphorical high tide and getting the current flowing this way. So just really be cautious. Make sure that you're being kind and clear with your words. And that's the biggest recommendation we can give you. If you're not, it's going to be hard for people not to mishear and not have that stress that you're trying to avoid. Okay. So that's what's going on here in the unseen electromagnetics. Now, let's come down here and let's talk about what that pattern is trying to stop us from doing. So, again, I'm going to say this. We're in a sentient space-time construct. There is an objective. This means we know what life is about now. We didn't before because we, one, didn't know that there was math that was dictating a reality that's teaching us about this, how to get along as a family. And when we're born into this simulated experience, we're all born into families, either sons or daughters. And we just didn't know that we were all connected by math. We didn't know what this was. But now that we know this construct, we know what we're supposed to be doing. Now, that doesn't help our current situation. Our current problems are caused because, well, we're designed to be defensive, which means we're designed to create mistakes. And for a long time here, individuals and families have been over investing in themselves. And that's caused this big division at the larger level here. Now, we're explaining this objective so that you clearly understand what life's about. It's not about competing. It's actually about getting along as an interconnected team. And to get along with an interconnected team, first of all, you got to overcome that pattern we just talked about. That electromagnetic pattern is trying to trick you into fighting with one another. So, first thing is we got to mend our relationships. We have to be able to communicate and cooperate with all of the people in our family, and not just the family we came from, all the families we share this existence with. Now, once we get our members getting along much better and understanding the importance of doing that, because again, eliminating that stress, well, that's an immediate advantage to all the individuals that do that. Now, once we get to the point where we can talk to each other and we can get along with each other, this is what we need to talk about, what the objective is. And the second part of this is how do we balance as a family? So we want to communicate about our routines and how we're going to coordinate and create future routines that are going to make sure that this future world has equal and balanced families, that our future world that we invest in is going to have quality for all individuals, no matter what family they come from, no matter what nation they're born in. At the national level, we have to create nations that are strong and work together and lift each other up because we need to have an interconnected world that's peaceful and balanced. That is what you're supposed to do in order to complete this sentient space-time objective. Now, we've already talked about the immediate rewards for doing this, but let me help you understand this a little bit clearer. You see, we're in a governed reality, which means we have frequencies that are governing and looking over all of our choices and how we decide to spend our time and how we decide to get along with the other members of our team. Now, these governing frequencies are connected to the quadrants of our body, and we simplify this. If you have trouble with any of these members, or if you're having trouble balancing your future routine, then the areas that you're unbalanced in, well, those are the quadrants of your body that are going to take accelerated damage. So if you really struggle in these lower ones, we're going to have a lot of lower quadrant problems in your body. If you really struggle with these upper ones, you're going to have a lot of upper quadrant problems with your body. This is about relationship and routines. It's that simple. And we're being tested 24/7. That's just how that works. Now, there is a huge reward. In this sentient space-time reality, there's two ways you exist. You're either in a negative feedback loop or a positive feedback loop. We're obviously in the negative one. That's why things have gotten so ugly for us. Now, if you commit to your team, and you start to balance your future routine, you got to let go of your present routine because our present routines, well, that's what's causing all this chaos at the larger level. So once you decide to do those two things, you'll be in perfect alignment with these governing frequencies. And not only do you slow aging and prevent disease, but you get the hell out of here. It is so important to understand that we exist in a mathematical construct. It changes everything. Once we realize what the objective is, you see, we've created all these routines that are accelerating our aging, creating diseases that don't need to exist, and it's making our life miserable, and we're suffering as we do this. And it's just because we didn't know how this works. Now, there isn't really much of a choice here because to not do this means you just come back to this negative feedback loop again and again and again. Now, we want to take the time to prove this to you, and that's why we do these zoomed in 24-hour. Okay, so now we're going to talk about day two. And day two is zoomed in so we can synchronize the times of the day with this electromagnetic pattern, the ups and downs. Now, we have all 24 time zone offsets. Come down here, find your offset. Once you have the proper offset, this will hold for 10 seconds. Screenshot it. We do this so that people that don't have good internet in rural areas have access to these graphs all day long because it's important to know when this is going to elevate and when it's going to fall. It's manipulating us. It's manipulating all of us. Now, if you got great internet, just go to our homepage. There's a live feed. You hit play, a time bar goes through this sequence. Either way, we want you to reference this graph as much as possible during the course of the day. It just happened again to me today. I was hanging out with my parents and there was a little misunderstanding. Opened up the tool, and sure enough, at the peak of one of these right here. That's what you're going to find every time you or somebody around you is getting defensive or not hearing or not able to communicate or starting to want to be argumentative. This pattern's manipulating them. And we fight each other instead of fighting the real fight here, which is overcoming your defensive nature to make you suffer. Okay, that's the first way we get you to understand what this is. All right, so this is the zoomed in, and you can see that first person is going to be the easier of the two here, okay? A lot of our elevation that we have is happening in third person. Now, first person, these are the people that are around you, your family, your coworkers, your community members, the people you see every day. Third person, these are the bigger ticket items. This is what people invest in. So there are probably going to be some things going down where if you're invested in having to have the world work out a certain way, just take a deep breath. Don't argue with people. It ain't worth it. But you're going to feel like you're going to want to. That's what this pattern is showing us right here. Now, when we look at these two things combined together, you can see that for a good portion of this sequence, we're at that number 4. And don't you forget what I said before. This elevation that's holding, that's a mental polarity flip. When mental rhythms are flipping, it just makes decision making a little bit more difficult. And you can jump to conclusions a little bit quicker when you're in a polarized moment. That's what that does. All right, so done with the electromagnetics here. Now we're going to talk about alignments. There's not a ton of alignments today. And alignments are the second way that we can really point things out and prove things to you. Okay. Now, 24/7, we're being tested by frequency, and those frequencies are only testing us on how we do with our teammates and how well we do with balancing our routines. Now, the blue ones have to do with how we get along with our teammates. Purple ones have to do with, well, are we balancing our routines? So when the time bar runs through this, it's going to be checking to see how well you're getting along with the older members of the team. And this is when two frequencies perfectly align. This is how long they're going to align for. So they amplify this moment and make it much more probable that if you're out of balance, you're going to feel it up here. Okay. And really, with any member of the team, whether they're old or young, you got to be able to communicate. You have to be able to coordinate. You have to be able to help them alleviate stress. And you have to talk to them about their routines and share what you're doing with your routines and try to coordinate your routines together to make sure that we have a future state of peace. That's how you'd be in perfect alignment. That's what you'd want to talk about. That's what you'd want to do. If you're not doing that, well, then you're going to have some variation of not being in alignment, which means accelerated damage and aging is coming. That's how that works. Now, when we look at the last alignment here, we're going to talk about this is a time alignment. So it's a purple alignment. This has to do with if we're balancing our routines, and this has to do with those upper routines, the larger ones. What are we doing at the world and national level? Now, we better be leaving the world and the nations that we exist in a better place for future generations. So we better start getting our climate under control here. We better start conserving our resources, and our habits better lead to that. Now, the more unbalanced your habits are, if your habits are leaving this world and nation not so nice for the next generations, then accelerated damage, upper quadrants. That's how that works. And you'll feel it during this time. So don't be surprised if this is when your sinuses act up, or you get a headache, or your shoulders start to ache, the indigestion, all that good stuff. And even if you don't feel it, if you're out of balance with this, it's still doing damage to the tissues. And that tissue damage over the course of your lifetime, well, I think you're starting to understand why certain individuals get certain diseases. Okay. That's how that works. All right. Let's get down here now. We're going to briefly talk about testing sequence. So testing sequence tells you how many frequencies are going to be in a quadrant during any given moment of the day. And as that time bar comes through here, you'll be able to see which quadrants are being tested heavily. Now, this is a pretty equal day. 4 is the same thing here. If it's more than 4, that's a lot. If it's less than 4, not as much. And these are all pretty much hanging at that 4. Maybe the upper right's a little bit more, maybe. But for the most part, this is an equal day of testing. Now, got to remember the alignments are going to come after the upper quadrants. So if there was an area that we're going to feel in this next 24 hours, I'm saying these upper quadrants. Plus, these are obviously the ones we're struggling with. These are the more maturing perspectives that understand the importance of investing in and making sure that the future has a better experience. And right now, we've got too many short-term thinkers going on here. And those short-term strategies that are good for ourselves, well, that's what's causing all this chaos at the larger level. So again, upper quadrants, that's probably where you're going to be feeling this. These two graphs right here show where the 10 strongest frequencies are going to sit for the next 24 hours. Now, there's a lot more than 10 frequencies that are going to test us, but these are the strongest, and this is where they sit. And the first person has to do with, well, again, how we get along with our teammates, and third person has to do with how well we're balancing our routines. Now, when you look at this, if you have right lower quadrant pain that goes on for this next 24 hours, you can be certain that it's tied to your routine. In all the other quadrants in this 24-hour, there's some overlap here. And when there's overlap like this, you really want to document what you feel when you feel it, and we can help you figure out, well, which one's causing it? Is it more you're having problems with teammates, or is it your routines that are causing your problems? Now, don't overcomplicate this either. It's pretty simple to understand. You need to be working at this and this all the time, getting along with everybody and balancing your routines with everybody. If you do that, you're not going to have to worry about these graphs. But until you get things in the direction where you'd like them, our software gives you a huge advantage to get the best start and the best result as quick as possible. That's why we put it together for you. All right, let's end this thing out. So we've got the rest of 2024's electromagnetics posted. When this pattern goes up, social tension goes up. When this pattern falls, social tension falls. We're empowering every person to see this because we want you at the individual level to take advantage of this first. When this pattern goes up, you stop your contribution. You also help the people around you not fall victim to this pattern. And when we get bunches and bunches of individuals, so when we get regions or nations of individuals overcoming this pattern together, it's going to be amazing to see what we can do to our future. We can change everything, but we can't change anything until we overcome this pattern. This pattern is organizing the chaos and the suffering that we're having to endure here. Now, best news is this. We understand it. We have an advantage, but we need your commitment. One, confirm that what we're telling you is true. You exist in a simulated reality. Once you conclude that and you understand what this is all about, there's really only one option, and there's only rewards for the investment that we're asking you to put in. All right. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you in the next 24 hours.